Hello, Craig Cody here with the Progressive Agency Podcast. Today's special guest is Chris Rodriguez. Chris is a digital marketing consultant for the martial arts industry. She runs her own mastermind program called the ATeam, and she also runs a business event called the Seven Figure CEO. Um, she has been in the martial arts area I will call you a martial arts expert. I don't know a lot about martial arts, but 27 years. Um, you have been teaching for over 20 years. You are a first degree Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And the only thing I know about Jiu-Jitsu is from the Jocko podcast. So there's not much. Thank you very much for spending time with us today.
Yeah, I am so pumped to be here, Craig. Thanks for the invitation.
So tell me a little bit about you, the person, and then a little bit more on the business.
Yeah, so as you said, I am a martial artist, and Jocko also does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I got my start when I was about 8 years old in a Taekwondo school. And Taekwondo is pretty well known to the majority of Americans. But I ended up falling in love with jujitsu, which is predominantly ground fighting. It's what to do when something, when a fight hits the ground, which happens often. And I always knew that I was going to own a martial arts school. I went to the University of South Florida on a full ride, academic ride. I got my degree in education. I figured that would really be a great selling point, especially because I wanted my school to be focused on children. As a female martial artist, as somebody that is vertically challenged, I'm only 5'2". I thought that focusing on the kids programs would be a better business model than focusing on the adult programs. So I opened up my school in 2012. It's a brick and mortar martial arts school. Very, very blessed to have an amazing rock star team there that runs it. I pretty much spend about 3 hours a month at the studio. And because of the systems that we have in place, because of the team that we have in place, it's allowed me to pursue other passions. And one of those passions is digital marketing. So when I opened up my martial arts school, I very quickly realized we were talking about where I'm at. I'm in Tampa, Florida, that, doing flyers on cars and parking lots or putting out little road signs or doing rat cards at local businesses was not really the way I wanted to spend my time. And I fell in love with Facebook ads and the fact that I could just open up my laptop, a few strokes of the keys, and I could start having leads just automatically come in, was really motivating to me. So I spent a lot of time learning digital marketing. And then you have other martial arts school owners seeing how quickly you're growing your school. So the questions started pouring in. How are you doing this? And because I had a background in education, I started teaching other martial arts school owners how to run Facebook ads and Instagram ads and Google ads and do social media management. And at the end of every one of those training sessions, it was the same request. Chris, I learned so much, but will you just do this for me? And after about 100 people asked, I finally launched Grow Pro Agency. And that is really my main focus right now. That's the office building that I'm in right now. I have an amazing team, 16 in-person team members here in this building. And that really, I think, is what puts us apart from most other agencies. A lot of agencies are looking to cut costs, which makes sense. And, they hire VAs in the Philippines and Costa Rica and Pakistan. And I knew that I could build an amazing in-person team. I knew that I was a great in-person boss. I didn't know if I was a great remote boss. And it really allows us to have a higher level of customer service because we're all here in the building. So we solely focus on running paid ads, Facebook, Google, Instagram, now TikTok. We do database reactivation, we do social media management, but we solely do this for the martial arts industry. We have about 260 clients all over the world that we run their digital marketing for. So that's a little bit about me and where I started and where I'm at now.
That's an interesting story. And you personally, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I am a bonus mom to two amazing sons, Nate and Darian, and I am a mom to a little boy who just turned 2 years old. His name is Cruz. I have an amazing wife, Stephanie, And she basically takes care of the household and I take care of the business. It's a beautiful partnership that we have. On top of doing martial arts, I enjoy playing the piano, but I really, really love working and doing what I do. So it's also a hobby as well as a passion.
Well, they say if you love what you do, you're not really working.
I think it is work. It's just more enjoyable work.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the program called the ATeam.
Yeah. So, the number one question that pretty much any business owner asks a mentor is, how do I get more clients? Right. And the reason why they say that is because they ultimately want to increase their revenue. So I also have a mastermind program that is specifically for martial arts schools. The majority of the schools are jujitsu schools. And, running a jujitsu school is a little bit different than running like a karate school or a taekwondo school, because most people equate all martial arts with the Karate Kid, right? Back from the movie, and also now with the new series on Netflix. And what we do is very similar to wrestling. It occurs on the ground. So it's not what people typically think martial arts, is. So I run a mastermind group. We have about 30 people in the group. We do bi-weekly group coaching. I do some one-on-one coaching, but I try not to do that anymore. It's just incredibly time consuming, but it allows me to help them on the business and sales and systems and processes end. And if they need help with the marketing, then they can hire my company GrowPro, and then we'll do their ads together. So it's it works really, really well with having those two separate entities.
Okay. And then last question before we get into my questions, and hopefully I don't get myself in trouble here, but nobody can see what I'm looking at. And you're wearing a sweatshirt and it says lions, not sheep.
Correct.
Can you tell me about that? What is that?
Yeah, it's a clothing brand. They really blew up during COVID, I think, because of the messaging aligns with, certain people on a certain side. And I just really love the brand. I do love the messaging. It's a reminder that my goals are non-negotiable, that on the days that I don't feel like doing it are the days that I need to do it regardless, whether that's, getting my continued education in, or whether that's getting my, fitness in, or whether that's just going to work. But it's a brand that was created a few years ago, and they kind of really blew up over COVID. The guy named Sean Whalen, he's on Instagram, and it's his company. So
very interesting. I like that. So back to my question. So tell me, you told us about the agency. So tell me a little bit about, what do you think is the most important financial lesson you've learned, building this agency? Because it was it was a bit of I'm going to use the word, it was an agency by almost mistake. You didn't intend to do this. So
no, I mean, honestly, if you asked me 10 years ago, so this is the 10th year anniversary of my martial arts school. If you asked me, hey, Chris, you'd be, having a multi 7-figure agency for digital marketing in 10 years, I would have said, what? It happened because there was a great opportunity and I took a risk. And when I did it, I actually ended up buying myself a job again. I had built this martial arts school that was running like a well-oiled machine. I didn't need to be there. And then when I started the agency, I bought myself a job, because here I was doing all of the fulfillment on it. And I ended up taking about 10 clients. And then I realized, man, this is a lot of work. And that's when I made my first hire. I think one of the most important financial lessons just in general that I've learned from the martial arts school, from the consulting, from the agency, is gross feeds the ego, net feeds the family. I'll use the example in the martial arts industry, and even in the agency industry. People love beating their chest about their client count, right? How many clients do you have? And it really is just a superficial number, because at the end of the day, I could have 100 students paying $500 at my school, or I could have 200 students paying $100. So I've really learned to focus more on not just those gross revenue numbers, but really what are we able to take home? What are we able to put aside for investing? And there was a time in my martial arts school, and I had very humble beginnings with my martial arts school. I started subleasing a Zumba room inside of a fitness gym. And my rent was like $1,000 a month. I didn't have to pay for anything else, just the rent. And my ego got in the way when there was this opportunity right down the road where I could go into a 12,000 square foot facility. It was 2 stories. It was huge. And it was a former dance studio. And dance and martial arts are very similar activities. So the build out, worked really, really well. And, I wanted to say I had the biggest martial arts school in the area. So we made the switch from this little 1,000 square foot room to a 12,000 square foot building. I went from $1,000 in rent to $8,000 in rent. And it was, a really great bittersweet lesson, because there was a time period where there was $35,000 a month in expenses just to keep the doors open. And that was me beating my chest of, we're bringing X amount in. Yeah, but X amount is going out. So you're not really making that much money. So that's been one of the biggest, most important financial lessons, is that gross feeds the ego, net feeds the family.
Right. And, my saying is, keep more of what you make. And,
There you go.
I'm a follower of agency management, and, they use the term AGI, and that's basically, what does the agency have to pay their bills? Okay. What is left after your cost of goods and stuff like that? So I think it's vanity metric versus, what
Sure.
can I actually do with that money? So that's really good. So do you see, you work with a lot of, I guess, non-agency partners,
Correct.
and do you see them making similar mistakes, or you don't get into that area?
Yeah, we have a saying, small dojo, big profits is ultimately what you want. And, I think where some of the issues lie is that most people don't open a martial arts school because they want financial freedom. They open up a martial arts school because they've been doing martial arts their whole life. It's their passion, it's their hobby. And it's very rare that they have the business skills or business acumen to be successful. You'll have world champions open up martial arts schools, and within a year it's shut down just because they haven't learned the business skills necessary in order to grow. And, it's kind of weird in our industry that if you're successful and you make money, they call you a McDojo. They're trying to, basically compare you to McDonald's. And I'm like, I think that's a great comparison. McDonald's has got their stuff together, right? If you've ever seen the documentary on Netflix, it shows how they built all of the systems and processes with McDonald's. It's kind of crazy that you can be ostracized for being successful in our industry because people think it's selling out. At the end of the day, it took me 10 years to get my black belt in jiu-jitsu. In that same amount of time, I could have became a doctor. Right. So I don't see that there's any issue with finding success, in what we do. But for some reason, the mindset in the martial arts industry is that, you're basically a sellout if you're successful, for a lot of people, not for everybody. For a lot of people, they have that mindset.
Okay, interesting. So if you were to recommend 2 strategies to an agency owner who wants to build something like that you've built, what would that be?
Yeah, I knew absolutely nothing about the agency world. I'm, my kind of story of already being in an industry and having a niche specific marketing agency is, kind of backwards of what most people do. Most people have a legacy marketing agency where they're advertising for doctors and chiropractors and lawyers and restaurants and gyms, and that can be very difficult to scale. For me, I hit a low point in March of 2020. I think everybody kind of hit a low point of March of 2020. By that time, I had the agency for about 8 months, and all of our martial arts schools got shut down instantly, and we lost about 33% of our clientele immediately. And at that point, I did not have a mentor in the agency space. I have great mentors in the martial arts industry. I have great financial and wealth building mentors, but I did not have an agency mentor. So I went and sought one out. And that is the absolute number one strategy. When people ask, Chris, if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently? I would have found my mentor. His name's Josh Nelson. He runs 7-figure agency. I would have found him sooner. And the guidance, the mentorship, here's your agency in a box, just follow the steps. That's exactly what I did. Josh jokes all the time. I signed up on a Friday, and by Monday, I had gone through all of their training videos. I mean, these are hundreds of training videos. I just immediately consumed it. And that would bring me to kind of my next strategy, is that there is a plethora of information and knowledge out there. You want to learn something, go on Google, go on YouTube. So what separates the good entrepreneurs from the great entrepreneurs? It's 100% speed of implementation. So those are the two strategies that have really helped me grow very quickly in a very short period of time. From 2020 to 2021, we had 100% growth. And get a good mentor and speed of implementation would be my two recommendations.
Kind of like the speed of money.
Yes, money loves speed.
That's right. So now you run two businesses, even though you only spend a few hours a month in the jujitsu world?
Well, four actually. Well, I guess we could say five. So I've got the martial arts school, I've got the consulting company, I've got the digital marketing agency. I also work as an employee for the Martial Arts Industry Association as their digital marketing consultant. It's a great B2B relationship I have. And I also have a real estate investment company. So I actually own the building that we're in. I've got tenants over to the side. And we bought this in January of 2021. And I am in the middle of a deal right now to buy the building next door because we've outgrown this place. So I've also, dabbling in commercial real estate investment as well.
Beautiful. So with all that in mind, what are some time-saving tips you could recommend for our listeners?
Yeah, this is one of my absolute favorite topics. I've recently spoken on stage. I call it my $1 million productivity hacks. I mean, at the end of the day, time is the great equalizer, right? There's nobody on this planet that gets more than 24 hours in a day. So how is it that some people can get, the work done, in a very, very short period of time, and other people, it takes a longer period of time? For me, when my son Cruz was born, this became a very important topic because prior to his birth, I could spend 12, 14, 16-hour days, and I wasn't really missing out on anything. And I did not want to be that parent that was going to be missing out on anything. So I made a non-negotiable with myself that my work day is typical banker hours, like 9 to 5. That's it. 5 o'clock, it's got to be shut off. And in order to do that, there were really three things that I implemented. The first one is I tracked everything that I did for 2 weeks in a row, minute by minute. And I separated that into the different companies that I run, right? How much time am I spending on this company? How much time am I spending on this company? And then what I did was I put it in priority order of what do I want to let go the most because I don't really like it or I might not be good at it. And then I started delegating. I am a huge fan of the entrepreneurial operating system. The book Traction is one of, if somebody said, what are the 5 top business books you think, entrepreneurs should read? I would tell them Traction. And inside of the entrepreneurial operating system, they have this worksheet called Delegate and Elevate. And I believe every CEO owner should go through this. And it's basically got 4 quadrants. And in the top left quadrant, you've got love and great. Everything that you do in your businesses that you absolutely love and that you're absolutely great at. And you categorize all of those items. And then you've got in the other top quadrant, what you like and what you're good at. So you list out everything that you like to do, everything that you're good at, right? Then you've got the bottom quadrants. And this is where oftentimes we spend a lot of time, but we shouldn't. And one category is things that we dislike, but we're good at. And I think that can be the kind of Achilles heel for most entrepreneurs. They're things that you've done it so many times that you're just good at it, you're fast at it, but you don't like doing it. And that can be a trap. And then finally, the bottom right quadrant is the things that you dislike and that you're not good at. And the ultimate goal is to spend the majority of your time in those top 2 quadrants, the things that you love and that you're great at, and the things that you like and that you're good at. So when I was preparing to, sign this contract with myself where I'm just going to be working 9 to 5. This is one of the exercises that I did. I listed out everything that I do in the companies. I categorized them in those 4 quadrants. And then I started with the stuff that I didn't like and I wasn't good at. And I either tried to automate it, I tried to delegate it, or I just deleted it. I think the number one productivity hack is delegation. But the issue that comes into play is we delegate, but we don't observe. And then we get frustrated when the item that we delegated didn't happen the way that we wanted it to happen. So anytime I talk about delegation, I also piggyback it with you have to observe and give corrective feedback to that person, because the reason why you got so good at doing it is because you got your reps in, right? The reason why I'm such a great martial arts instructor is because I did it for 20 plus years. I can't expect the person that's going to be replacing me to be as good if they didn't have that experience. And I've got to give them an opportunity to get those reps in, got to give them an opportunity to make mistakes, because that's how we get better. And the only way you're going to be able to give feedback is by observing. So delegate and elevate. And another huge thing for me is time blocking. I know the listeners, won't be able to see this, but this is my time blocking sheet. It's color coordinated. It goes minute by minute. If you want to really improve in any area of your life, typically tracking has to occur of some sort, right? If you start working out with a personal trainer, they're going to ask you to track your macros and your calories. They're going to ask you to track your weight. If you want to get better with your finances, you're going to have to start tracking where every single penny and dollar goes. So the way that I assign every dollar in my life to have a role, I assign every minute of my workday to have a role. And time blocking has been super helpful in being more productive and efficient.
Yep. And I like the delegate and follow up and make sure you just can't send it away and expect it's going to come back perfect. Otherwise, it's going to blow up in your face in 2 or 3 months. So
exactly.
So now let's comment into my world. Let's talk about cash flow. How does it affect you, and what do you do to wrangle it?
Yeah. So, this is, I in no way consider myself an expert in finances or cash flow. But I am really, really passionate about habits. And I think that it ultimately starts with your habits. I am personally a very frugal person. I also am very risk adverse. I am not a huge fan of doing anything too crazy. I do believe that in order for me to kind of get to the next level of my finances, I have to be a little bit more riskier. But for me, having a large cash flow allows me to sleep better at night. I am one of these people that, a 3-month emergency fund does not make me sleep well at night. A 6 to 12-month emergency fund makes me sleep well at night. So again, it kind of goes back to that whole gross feeds the ego, net feeds the family, and really understanding your gross profit margins and what your expenses should be at. Who doesn't want positive cash flow? But I am, very big on not spending tomorrow's dollars today. So, I am a person that likes to stack money away and then invest it in commercial real estate.
Interesting. That's good. So, and I believe, you need to do what lets you put your head on a pillow at night and sleep well. So whether it's 3 months,
Exactly.
1 month, 6 months, or a year, that's up to you. So I appreciate you spending time today. Before we go, is there anything else you might want to share with our listeners?
I think as, entrepreneurs that are listening, especially when you love what you do, it's important to remember that there is no worldly success that can compensate for failure in the home. And I see this happen often with entrepreneurs that have families. So I just think it's imperative that you set up your non-negotiables, because no worldly success, doesn't matter how much money you have, can really compensate for failure in the home. And really just work harder on yourself than you do your job. It's a famous Jim Rohn quote. Jim Rohn was probably my very first mentor. Remember listening to audio cassettes in my car and CDs of Jim Rohn. And I think we sometimes try to work so hard on the business that we forget to work on ourselves, continued education, taking care of our health. This is the only body we're going to get because we love what we do and we're so passionate about it. So that would be my kind of sign off, I guess, today for the listeners.
Well, good points. Well, thank you very much for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me.